Welcome to Blake Street Banter. One of us knows what the word banter means. The other two are just along for the ride. What's up, Isaac?
What is up? I feel like a bear. I just got up from a 3-month nap. So we are back and we are hot.
A lot of energy, yeah. Then we have Tyler, he's been doing the pods, though. Him and Aaron have been killing it.
Yeah, I was just saying I've done like 2 in the last month, but also 2 in the last 3 months, I think. So I've been coming out of hibernation a little bit too. All of us here at BSB.
Have you guys caught up with any Rockies news post July?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like all in my head, but that's almost like not a willing thing. Like I see everything and like somehow decide to absorb it against my best interests.
Should we just jump right into the GM search? And, let's not beat around the bush here. Rockies fired or resigned. My bad. Bill Schmidt resigned. And we're finally getting a new direction after all these losses. Feels like our losing did something. And we're down to 2 candidates. And I know Tyler knows a lot more about these guys than I do. So, Tyler, why don't you just take it away?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one detail, like I think it's down to 2. The report was like there might be another one in the mix, but like can't confirm. It probably is down to 2, and those 2 are it's Adael Sade, the Diamondbacks assistant general manager. Kind of notably, I think it was 2021, maybe 2022. Diamondbacks GM Mike Hazen had to step away for personal reasons we don't need to discuss. And Sade is the one who stepped into that role. I don't know how long that was. I think it was at least a couple months. What was something that was worth being away for that amount of time. So he has that kind of experience. And then Matt Foreman, assistant general manager with the Cleveland Guardians. He's been there since 2013. It took him 4 years to get to the assistant general manager post, which for a lot of guys, it probably takes like 10 years. So he did that in 4 in one of the most progressive, smart organizations in baseball. Like they do a lot of things really well. He did that all in 4 years. So I think that speaks for itself a little bit.
Matt Foreman kind of reminds me of the guy in Moneyball, Peter Brand, like the little assistant that really runs the show. That's kind of how I imagine him. Cleveland has this wealth of front office members, even like if you go beyond GMs in this league or if you go to the assistant GMs, there's so much footprints that Cleveland has over this league. What do you think they can learn from Cleveland? Like, what do you think Cleveland has done well that the Rockies can really take advantage of if Matt Foreman is the hire?
I mean, you look at Cleveland and the fact that their payroll is always bottom 10, some years probably even bottom 5. But if I'm not mistaken, they haven't missed the playoffs. Like, I kind of want to look it up right now. They definitely have not missed the playoffs much the last 10, 15 years. But a lot of that's built on just really maximizing pitching talent. They don't have a ton of stars in their pitching side of things, but you think about their bullpen, they just have consistently produced really, really good relievers. They've managed to find a lot of mid to back end starters. Again, no like aces, but they've done a really good job on the pitching front. And yes, since 2016, they've made the playoffs all but 3 years. So I think that's 9 seasons. They're 6 of 9 getting in there, and payroll is, again, typically like bottom 7 or 8 in the league.
And I wonder if we see more of this payroll stuff. I know baseball currently doesn't have a salary cap, but it kind of seems like the owners are going to get their way in 2027, if we even have a season then. And I almost wonder if we're going down this path of you need guys who are good with salary cap, guys who don't just spend stupid money. We see all around the league, there's a lot of teams that don't spend a lot. Like the Rockies are one team that we kind of spend a good bit if you look at payrolls. We're usually about mid-table there. We just can't ever really execute or really just seems like we always spend money in bad places. So Isaac, my question to you is, how important is the payroll side of things versus how important is just a scouting and development side of things?
Well, I think the Rockies aren't really like a poor team per se. Like they're middle pack and they can spend money efficiently and they can get good players. It's just a matter of being able to do that scouting, be able to do that type of evaluation of what is going to work in the Colorado Rockies organization. Do I think one is more important than the other? I don't think so. And it's shown like across teams in baseball, spending money works well. Like the Texas Rangers won a World Series out of it recently. Dodgers are a force to be reckoned with. But also,
I mean,
like,
even the
look
Blue
at the
Jays, we'll go
Guardians.
them in there. Blue Jays have spent tons of money on free agents.
Right. And then look at the Rays, look at the Guardians, for example. They're not spending lots of money, but they've been good a lot for these last 10 years. If we can get somebody who's really good at doing one of those two efficiently, I think that will lead to winning baseball. So that's not really answering your question, but that's my input on that.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Currently, we've essentially operated with terrible development, and then we spend money on the development once they reach that status in their contract. So it's like we're getting the worst of both worlds. And we see teams like the Rays, they do so well just rinsing and repeating the same processes over and over again. Where I don't really think it's hard once you have like a scouting department in place. If you have a good process, I just feel like we've lacked that process, especially on the pitching side of things. Where it seems like they sort of now, with like the weird lefty releases, they sort of might have a little identity going. Granted, that might all be blown up now because we have a new GM coming in. But, and then that's going to go into my next point here, Tyler. What kind of direction do you hope the new GM goes in, especially with pitching side of things? Because we know Coors is just a whole different animal.
I mean, that's a very open question. I think there's a lot of different ways you could answer that. I think really just buying into an analytical process and kind of to your point, like finding an identity on the pitching side, because the Rockies they tried to experiment a little bit through the draft, like finding different types of pitchers, different types of hitters even, but it felt like that was always like a one-off type of thing. Like they'd go for this type here and this type here and then never really establish that theme at the big league level. And so really it comes down to establishing something actually at the big league level, doing so analytically through just a really complex process. And that's something I'll say the Cleveland Guardians very good at. Diamondbacks, I think, are a little bit more traditional, run-of-the-mill. It's the reason that they kind of barely got into a World Series and now have been a kind of fringe team ever since then. The Guardians are really, really good at finding a mold, just really finding talent, though, too, at the end of the day. So I think overhauling the process to find players and also to maximize them. So, I mean, that encompasses a lot of things. So really there's no stone that should be left unturned, though, is I think the ultimate answer to that question.
Yeah, I think you put in a really good thing in the BSB group chat about just the difference between Arizona's front office and Cleveland's front office and why you think it's going to be the Arizona guy, because it's not as techy or has more modern is what I'd call Cleveland. They're definitely probably the front runner outside of maybe the LA or I'll maybe even throw like Tampa Bay in there in terms of scouting departments, analytical positions, where the Rockies, I don't want to say we're like the Diamondbacks. I think we're kind of our own little bubble, but we do definitely operate a little more in the past. And so, like you said there, I do think we're probably going to lean the Diamondbacks guy. I forgot his name, but I'm sure I'm going to get to know these guys' names very, very quickly once we make the hire. And to piggyback off of what you said about the pitching side of things, I think it's also really important that we hire a manager that kind of fits that same mold of how they want to play. The Guardians are a perfect example of a team that you can watch a Guardians game, and there's a lot of games where they aren't the best team and they still find a way to scrap out a win with a good bullpen and phenomenal base running. So Isaac, I got to ask you this question. Who do you think should be the next manager of the Rockies? And what identity should we take on? Should we take on this score a bunch of runs at Coors, or should we try to build the bullpen kind of like Cleveland?
Did you ask manager or general
manager? Yeah,
manager. I don't have a specific name. In the Blake Street Banter X group chat that we have, I was really advocating for the Giants hire of what's his name?
The Tennessee coach, right?
The Tennessee.
Yeah, I thought you might have been going a different direction with that, but yeah, you were the champion on that.
Yeah, I was really advocating for it, and I don't think no matter like how big you are, like no matter how many wins you have, I don't think that means like you're a good or bad manager. Essentially, like Bud Black, he has the worst winning percentage out of any manager who's reached 1,000 wins across their managerial career. That doesn't mean he's bad, and I don't think he was bad for the Rockies, essentially, at the end of the day. I just think somebody who's like progressive, somebody who is open to managing a baseball team differently, because it's a different game in Colorado than it is at the other 29 ballparks. And just to have that open mind and not being a traditionalist thinker as a manager spot, I want that. And you listed some names on our document, and I don't know if I'd want any of them. Just 'cause I don't know.
So Isaac, it might have been like the worst list ever created.
So those are my thoughts. I don't know if that's something you two would
Isaac is
disagree
like,
with.
I list of guys I don't want. It's in the doc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that list and trying to think like who would be the least bad one there. And also you have to think about practicality too. Like Gabe Kapler, you listed on there. Honestly, I wouldn't mind that, but I think he's like gone a different path now, like in the front office side of things. But at that, the managerial thing is so like hard to pick out, like who you should really be eyeing, because I think they have a pretty big impact on the team. But at the same time, I think every manager can kind of have like a similar net impact. Like there's not a ton that separates the best manager from the worst. There's things that do, but it's hard to just identify. It really comes down to like, what is the GM trying to implement? And that's what you need to go for, which was kind of to your point of looking at the pitching side of things. Maybe they need a pitching guru and someone who's very analytical on the pitching side. I mean, that is sort of what you reserve a pitching coach role for, and we'll get into that a little bit. Maybe you go for Tony Vitello, who I don't know what his baseball specialty is, like what it is like that he might make better about every guy he coaches, versus is he just a leader? And that's sort of always a discussion you got to have.
I still think Joe Madden. I feel like every time I bring him up, I get laughed at. Like, I mean, a lot of Tampa names on that list. Joe Madden kind of changed Tampa's franchise into what it is now. He really turned them around from the Devil Rays to the Rays. He took the devil out of them. So,
I have a question for Tyler. So the Rockies have went a lot of different ways with pitching. I think it was 2024. Their bullpen had the highest average velocity on their fastballs. Like, they were throwing harder than any other bullpen in baseball, and that didn't really work out great for them. And then I'm gonna throw out three names for you. I'm gonna throw out Chase Dollander, Victor Vodnik instead of Seth Halverson, and Brent Suter. You look at those three, and you wouldn't expect Brent Suter to have the best results of those three. And it's just, that's such a hard part about pitching in baseball or pitching in Colorado. You don't know what's going to work. And I don't know if there's going to be a GM that will know how to work, because I don't think you can just stick with one like category, one like philosophy of how to make a pitching staff and have it all like stay in one array of something. I'm more so making a statement right now, but if you have comments on what I just said, Tyler, I appreciate that.
I always count on you to say something profound that does start a good discussion, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I think at the end of the day, it's really more about at Coors Field on the pitching side, like avoiding a couple of things. Like, you gotta, I think, maybe stick to your guns a little bit. Like, oh, there's one characteristic we really like. We want that in as many guys as possible. But I think we've seen with the Rays, what makes them so great on the pitching side is that basically no pitcher on their staff is all that. Like, there's variety clearly amongst like all their pitchers. Like, I think their bullpen it was like 2021, one of the years that they went deep into the playoffs. Someone created a graphic that was like all the arm slots, and they had everywhere from like 12 to 6 on a clock. Obviously assuming everyone has like the same arm side, it was like they had every sort of slot you could possibly imagine. And so I think getting that diversity is really important. The one thing I would say that you need to avoid, and this is kind of a new thing, I think, after seeing Chase Dollander pitch this year, is fastballs that do rely a bit on carry. They just don't work at Coors Field. Like you need to have a lot of other boxes checked versus a fastball that gets his fastball doesn't even get that great a carry, but when it doesn't have any carry, it's way too flat in a bad way. And so I think that's the one thing they need to avoid. Otherwise, I really do agree that you've got to kind of put your eggs in a lot of different baskets. And then through that, find out what might work a little bit better. But I don't think it's going to be clear exactly what will work the right way, in any short amount of time.
So do you just avoid the Chase Dollanders, the Bradley Blaylocks when they are available to you? Or like, would you try and change their fastball to make it more of like a sinker two-seam type mix? Or like, how would you go about that? Because you just don't pass up on talent like Chase Dollander when he's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to change it. Like, find the arm talent. I want to get more into pitching in this way to know like how like there's a lot to a pitcher, and one of the most basic things though ends up being like their ability to pronate like to their arm side versus supinate to the glove side. Some guys really can't do both, and if you have a guy like that, that might change the equation. Like this guy's a little bit limited. Like he's really only going to be able to throw he's not going to be able to throw like a sinker so well. That might be a little bit of like a red flag in some ways, because I think the sinker is going to be more Coors friendly than a lot of four-seam fastballs. Unless, we've talked a lot at BSB about Sean Sullivan, like Mr. 89 miles an hour, but the fastball probably will play at Coors Field because so many other things that he does well. Like you've got to be picky, but I think any fastball, a four-seamer that just relies on that carry without other great characteristics, it's probably set up for failure. Yeah, no, it's a good thought though. Thinking about I think Chase Dollander got set up for failure a bit because they just kept going back to this four-seamer that was getting crushed at Coors Field, and that's something new. The new staff you got to crack a code there and figure out how to use just his fastball arsenal. He's got a four-seamer. He has the sinker. His cutter works more like a slider, but I think he'd be capable of throwing also like a cut fastball. So they've got to work to find the mix that works for him home and away. He seems like one of the more drastic like home away guys though too. So, it's going to be tricky. Whoever like Clint Hurdle, man, his tweet yesterday, like whoever has that job, it's a challenge. We had a funny discussion about that tweet.
We're trying to decipher the tweet. I gotta ask both you guys this: what moves do you guys hope the Rockies make? Pretty broad question. Could be current roster moves, like Senzatella fully to the bullpen, or something even like a signing or something that you hope. What move would you signify the Rockies are going in the right direction?
I mean, I want to see like a little laundry basket of trades. Like, I don't think that the free agent market is ever going to be the Rockies' friend, because like you don't necessarily want to go for the older hitters on bigger. Like maybe you bring in one hitter, but it's difficult to sign a hitter that's older to a big contract. Pitchers, obviously, you're not going to have your luck with. So I want to see them just do a lot of shuffling with some just prospect trades, prospect for prospect. I don't know who on the major league roster is going to draw quite enough trade interest for it to be meaningful, but want to see a lot of shuffling. Bring in a veteran starting pitcher one way or another, though. They're probably not going to do great, but this team needs an anchor at some point. Like Kyle Freeland is great,
Screwball,
but yeah, you need Tarek Skubal. I mean, there's actually a lot of starting pitchers on this market that I think would be really interesting for Colorado, but are they going to want to sign in Colorado? Probably not. So just hopefully adding a veteran pitcher though that could go a long way. It doesn't need to be a huge flashy ad. Like 2 years ago, Marcus Stroman, that would have been great.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Isaac answer this after. I will just say, I think maybe I'm too modern, or this is just the wrong train of thought. I think nowadays teams are a lot more proactive, like when determining a player's future before they hit free agency. Like teams know when they're going to lose a player, and so they're instantly trade them for prospects. 2 years left on the deal. We see that all the time. So I think the free agent market is by nature almost like a like a bin of unwanted, or these guys are going to ask for probably more than what they're worth. You're probably going to have to outbid a bunch of teams, and we've seen that just kill the Rockies in the past, and sometimes they bid against themselves. But so I almost wonder if free agency, I just don't think it's ever worth it to really dip in there, especially heavily. But the Blue Jays did it, and look at them. So, Isaac, floor is yours.
Yeah, kind of to Tyler's point where you're doing smaller prospect to prospect trades, but I again wouldn't be opposed to trading away some of our bigger names. If we can get a solid package for Brenton Doyle or Ezequiel Tovar, I wouldn't be opposed to that, because I don't think that they are in the future of a winning Rockies team. And Ezequiel Tovar is still young. Rockies could keep him for a long time. Then he could be, but you can't. Obviously, he hasn't impacted the Rockies in a way that is putting them in a good direction, right? The Rockies just lost 122 games. Just not good stuff. So, I don't know. Get that mindset out of the lineup and see who will follow suit. I think this is a bad thought process I'm going in. I don't have any other direction. I'm sorry.
I think you make a good point.
And I think trading Doyle, it might be a little harder now, but I think stuff like that, you could throw him along with some of those young relievers we talked about this year at the trade deadline, and maybe Ryan Feltner. Those would be controllable players that you might want to keep, but at the same time, just getting to start a new track might be the way to go.
Yeah, and I think with the new GM, it's not his players. I think those moves are a lot easier to pull off when it wasn't your signing, when it wasn't your draft, when it wasn't your pick. So much easier to trade those guys when you can. I think now the term rebuild will actually mean something when we get a new GM. I feel like we should give them time. In the past, right? We had a new GM with Bill Schmidt, but it was the same regime basically. It was the same guys. So now it does kind of feel like anything can really happen with this roster, and in a good way. I think a roster shakeup isn't that bad. One thing I'd love to see is we were never active with waivers ever. We got Blake Krim at the end there. Antoine Kelly was one, but we were by far the worst team in the league. I don't know why we weren't working the waivers more than we were. Our 40th man is not particularly strong, especially compared to all the other teams' 40th man or even 45th man for most teams. So I think we need to work that more. Just find talent arbitrarily. Find starting caliber player any chance you can get.
Yeah. I do have to say Nick Mears was a really good waiver pickup we had. We got a major league pitcher out of it and a top 30 prospect. So,
and your boy Blaylock too. So.
Hey,
yeah.
Tyler Kenley into Austin Smith, who might be, that there we got a trade tree there from a waiver claim. And I mean, Nick Mears, same thing. So there's the trade trees forming.
Is Austin Smith to pivot? I think he was a Rule 5 guy, so
yeah,
that would make that trade. That trade is you basically traded Austin Kenley for nothing. A guy that wasn't
maybe Austin Smith. Maybe he's flying under the radar a little bit. Maybe he's getting added.
I think he's one of those pitchers that has an outrageously large number, right? He's 99, right? If I'm not wrong.
Maybe.
I mean, he's a large guy. Does that usually correlate with?
I think it does. Yeah.
Let's see, because
he's a jersey number.
I think that's what. I think 12. That's what.
I'm just wrong. What the heck?
He's 6'4", 210. So he's not a mega guy, but he's got a good frame.
Yeah, he wore 99 for the. Yeah, for the Braves. Anyways, let's go to the Rule 5 talk. After that, we do have a couple guys. The Rule 5 talk is always, it's kind of like a sicko thing to think about. No one, you can hardly find websites that have eligible players. We have ours, but we don't have anybody else that will probably be eligible that we can draft. But I will say we do get them. There's no lottery here, so we do get the top pick. Last year, the top pick was an all-star, so it might have been like a Mickey Mouse all-star, but it was an all-star player. So I'm excited for this one. I do think we have to make a selection. Like I said, we don't have a lot of talent on this roster. Team's 41st man is definitely better than our 40th man. But I'm gonna let you guys just talk about it. What players could we possibly lose? I know we lost a guy to the Rays last year or a couple years ago, or we traded him for cash during the Rule 5 draft, something like that.
Talking about guys who lose, I don't know if that's a good starting point. I'm sorry, I've been dogging on you this entire podcast, but there are a lot of really solid guys on the list. I think we can go over some of them later, but I think the biggest one I want to talk about. Sorry, I'm totally stealing your thunder right now, but is Gabriel Hughes gonna be selected? Because I'm gonna give a quick input of mine really quick. I'm not a huge fan of Hughes. Like, I think he's a good guy. I love our first rounders, but his like AAA numbers aren't.
We did a banter session with him.
What?
That counts for something. We bantered with him, so that counts.
We did banter with him. Like, he had a 4.30-ish ERA in AAA, but guys weren't chasing his stuff at all. What am I saying? His out of zone swing percentage was amongst one of the lowest in all of AAA, while the in zone contact percentage was super high. Like, guys aren't missing on his pitches. And when he leaves it in the zone, guys are hitting it. And he does have a good ground ball percentage, but I just don't think that any team is going to look at him and think that's going to be a big leaguer for us. And when you do pick somebody in the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft, you have to keep him on the major league roster for 162 games. And if not, it'll be forfeited or whatever it is. Do you guys have any more better?
No, this is a fascinating point, because if Bill Schmidt was still the GM, I would argue, well, Bill Schmidt's not going to let his first round pick leave. But now, like, this is a clean slate. In sports, we see that all the time. Like, you stick with the guy you invested tons in, even if the results suck. But now there's a new GM involved. That GM doesn't have the ego that it would take to get rid of Gabriel Hughes. That's not in the equation. So that's one of those roster things that 2 months ago I didn't think would happen. But now it's like that's definitely could happen.
Yeah, and I think Isaac made a lot of the right points there. Like, his stuff has not progressed like expected, and he's certainly not a major league caliber pitcher today. I don't think he's super far off. Unfortunately, when he was drafted, the stuff was better. He was averaging 93 to 95 on his fastball. In AAA this year, he was averaging around 91.5. Like, that's not the guy that they drafted in 2022. That's not big league caliber power when, the rest of his stuff is just fine. Like, he has some decent secondaries in his slider and his changeup, but without being able to just consistently hit 95, you don't look like a major league pitcher, especially, someone who's going to get taken in the Rule 5 draft. So it's going to be a tough one. I think the new GM will create a handful of 40-man spots. There's going to be some DFAs, some non-tenders that are made, and you're going to want to fill most of those spots. You can always get rid of guys later on if you make transactions and they need 40-man spots, but Gabe Hughes is kind of on the fringe there. I think there's a couple other guys who are more likely to get added right away, and he'll be get the room together. Everyone kind of give your insight, tough decision to be made. And ultimately it might lean that he's not added.
Yeah. Then another name you guys have, Sterling Thompson, which I think I didn't really watch the last month of Rockies, and I could have sworn he made his debut, but I don't think he did. No, I don't like the way Isaac looked at me in there. I think he's a pretty decent player, but he's very interesting because we never really see hitters get taken in these drafts. Like almost solely it's bullpen guys. Shane Smith last year was a starter, but so I almost wonder if that almost comes into the equation, whether it's like, a fringe hitter is a lot less likely to be taken than a fringe pitcher.
Yeah. A reason why I think he is going to be selected is just how he is better than a lot of guys the Rockies have given opportunities to over the last 5-6 years. And that can change with ownership, but Sterlin Thompson is a better major league hitter than Sean Bouchard, Alan Trejo, Aaron Schunk, and other players the Rockies have given 300 plus at bats to in MLB action. And I don't think he's inherently bad either. I think he can hold his own. I think he can have a better offensive production than somebody like Warming Bernabel. Outside of his
best player in the
first
world
week
for
of games, I think he has a better offensive profile, and I think he can be somebody who can contribute. And I think other teams would see that with Sterling Thompson.
Wait, I think the only reason he didn't get to make his debut was because the defense is kind of suspect. He's not a fast guy. He's really a hit tool right now. The power doesn't show up in game enough, so he is a hit tool right now. I think there's a chance he could be taken because it's a really good hit tool, and those seem to be guys that get taken. When hitters are taken, it's because they're they profile as a defensive specialist, or the hit tool is there. With him, the hit tool is there. He has raw power. He hits the ball hard, but he just hits a ton of line drives. And so a team might take him in and try to make that slight adjustment to give him, the extra couple degrees on the launch angle here and there, lift the ball better. That might make Sterling Thompson a good big league hitter. Whereas right now, maybe he's going to be close to average, which there's value in that, being close to league average as a hitter. He's a small adjustment away from potentially being a 110 WRC plus type of guy.
I think it's Nasim Nunez. Last year, the Nationals took someone 5th overall in this draft, a defensive guy, Nasim Nunez, and barely played him, especially in the first half of the year. They were essentially running out a 25-man roster. Again, it was last season. 78 plate appearances, and I think he was a Rule 5 guy. So we see that all the time. I'm just bringing that up for historical references. We do see that all the time. Any other arm barn guys that we could lose here? Because that's the bulk of the Rule 5 is relievers.
I mean, you got to start with Wellington Herrera. They're not going to lose him because he is the one guy who's certain to be selected. Maybe the best relief prospect since Seth Halverson. He's really good. And so they're not going to even take a chance there. That's the one guy. We'll never forget what day it'll be that they announce the Rule 5 or the 40-man selections, the Rule 5 protection deadline. Wellington Herrera is the one certainty. Another guy that I like that I don't know I don't think he's going to get protected because he's not checking boxes you want from a major league pitcher. It's Carson Skipper. He sits 86 to 88 with his fastball. I think that almost eliminates him from most analytical model-based teams. If he was throwing 90, maybe because he has the over-top arm slot. I think Carson Skipper is a future big leaguer though, and will carve out a little bit of a career for himself at least. I don't know that it's worth protecting him because for reasons stated, but he's someone that I think will at least get a conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have many guys we're worried about losing for obvious reasons. We're picking one in this draft for a reason, so hopefully we get some talent there. But I think you guys lay it out very perfectly. Connor Staine's one that we were talking about in our chat. Has a lot of talent, but I know you like Jake Madden, but his development hasn't been there. But I'm looking at this list. Benny Montgomery is very interesting. I wonder if a team would take him just because it's, high value pick. And this is another guy that the Rockies can just cut bait with because it's not our draft pick or not the new GM's draft pick. But beyond that, Braden Ward's a guy that I think we have to keep. I know Isaac loves Braden Ward. Jaron Duran, right? That's your comp for him?
No.
Don't put that on me.
Chandler Simpson is kind of a similarity.
Okay. Jaron Duran's a solid comp. I feel like you've said that once.
I usually make good comparisons, Lewis. But Chandler Simpson has elite contact while he's swinging the ball. Like, he doesn't swing and miss. And Braden Ward is also really good at not swinging and missing, but he's not elite. Like in AAA, Chandler Simpson was in the 100th percentile in whiff percentage. He just didn't swing and miss. While like Braden Ward was in like the 92nd, I think. But that's still a big difference, and one translates a lot better to the Major League Baseball than the other. I don't think Braden Ward is going to be protected by the Rockies in the MLB draft, but I think he is somebody who can make the roster next season. But his game is still pretty fresh, and I think we need to see more of it in minor league baseball. But I'm going to segue myself into two prospects really quick. I think Yanquiel Herrera and Jordy Vargas are two guys who previous years would have been guarantees for the Major League Rule 5. But Yanquiel Herrera didn't pitch at all in 2025. He has made 2 appearances in the Dominican Winter League, I'm pretty sure. He's been okay. If he keeps up a good performance, I think he can be added just because he has good stuff. He has good presence. It just depends on how well his stuff is. Where like Jordy Vargas struggled in 2025. He wasn't back to where he was. But if like his progression is looking good in this offseason, I think he's another guy that we could possibly protect. And I don't know if that's outlandish to say, but he has all the stuff in the world, and he's just we saw Anthony Molina be on the team for an entire year, and I like Jordy Vargas a lot more than Anthony Molina. So those are two guys that I think are dark horse picks.
Anthony Molina's still only like 23, so don't know anything.
And I mean, I thought I was kind of behind the like add Herrera. He was eligible last year, and I was like, they should add him now because if he's getting Tommy John, it'd be easier for them to stash him. I guess I don't know what the logistics were that kept that from happening. Like obviously he was not picked, but now that he's healthy, he's pitching. I'm sure scouts have taken a look at him down in. I think it's the Venezuelan Winter League. I'm sure they're at least taking a look because that was like some scouts and some of the media outlets were really, really high on him last year after the Rockies trade. Like I think Fangraphs had him as a top 10 organizational prospect last year. So there are definitely some lovers of Yanquiel Herrera out there, and that might get him on the 40-man roster.
I agree. And I think there are 2 other names that I think could be candidates. Michael Prosecki has been solid. And I think solid is like the best word for him. He's been solid in the minor leagues. I don't think he's had enough success in AA. Pretty sure that's where he ended the season. I don't think he had enough success there to be considered, but he's a fun name who could be a Rockies option. And we did touch on Austin Smith earlier, but he's had result wise, he hasn't had a great Arizona Fall League, but like his pitch logistics are pretty inspiring to me. Like there's nothing overpowering. His fastball isn't crazy. I think it's averaging 93, 94 right now, but he gets good extension. It's lively. It's getting just good feedback. Like it's gonna be a pitch that performs at the big league level. Like if you look at Stuff Plus models, he has at least 3 pitches that are above average, and I'm really intrigued by that. And he's a relief pitcher, and other teams can see that and think, okay, he already has 3 above average pitches. He needs some refinement. We can fix that in one season. So I think he's a pretty likely shot, maybe like a 10% chance the Rockies do protect Austin Smith, add him to the 40-man.
I think what we'll have to do next is do like a crunch on like who we think is actually going to be gone. Because if there's 6 spots on the 40-man come, the non-tender deadline, I think it makes it likely that a guy like Austin Smith gets added. But if you only have like 4 spots, you're probably, savoring those a little bit more. So I would go like slightly more likely than not Austin Smith, just because for reasons you said, Isaac, like the pitch mix there is major league caliber. I think there's things to work through, but that's a guy that some teams might say that's an easy slot him in the bullpen this year. He's capable type of guy.
Yeah. And I know Tyler has a tea time to make, and I'm out here messing with I guess they added sound effects to Sound Yard, so that should be very fun. But one last question before we all head out. How much stock do we put into the AFL?
I mean, I think a bit, but you kind of have to be on the inside, really, like, because every guy is experimenting there for the most part or rehabbing. And so you have to be aware of what's going on with the player. And so if you're not like a coach in the fall league or front office guy who has a clue on that, like, it's hard to make sense of what's going on with some guys. So I think the numbers you don't put much stock into, but I think you watch them. If you watch, like, if you're actually like there watching, you can take a lot more away from that.
And for me, not just for me, but in general, like, for pitchers, they have StatCast information, and like more likely than not, if guys are putting up good numbers with their pitchings through StatCast, like their RPMs and the induced break. I'm better at talking about this. I haven't done it in a while, but like all the smaller things that are available to us through StatCast, it's all available and it usually translates. On the offensive side, I think you should take it with like a grain of salt. Zach Veen was insane a couple years back in the AFL, and he hasn't had a good tenure in the MLB in 2025. But Ezequiel Tovar also did good, and he turned out to be a top 20 shortstop in baseball. So do as you will.
I think we're going to end it there.
And I think we need more StreamYard sound effects though, real quick.
No, I think it's a bad. Oh yeah, maybe now. I gotta get it out because this is a bad idea for the future. I don't know. We're not. There's also background music I can add.
Wait, that's next level production right there.
I'm thinking like after I say something, I don't want the.
That gong though, if you're doing like a player review, like you hype a guy up and then you name drop them after the gong.
Here with us, Gabriel Hughes. It's just...
Bam. We ran out of clicks. We have to upgrade our membership to get more clicks.
They have like background music. Yeah, this is cool. Stuff they shouldn't let me do because I'm gonna ruin the production value at BSB with this. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in. Go Rocks and minor league affiliates.
Woo!